Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Castlevania Legacy of Darkness playthrough. We've already watched Clock Tower once as Reinhardt, and we're going to be seeing it again as Carrie. So I decided I'd skip most of this too. Actually, most of Cornell's second half is very, very like Reinhardt and Carrie. I get the feeling that the let's make Cornell the only main character of Legacy of Darkness and treat the actual Castlevania 64 campaigns as if it were an extra for marketing purposes thing was imposed on the game like at the last minute, and they had to make some adjustments. That's the sense I get from what happened anyway.
When the hell did Death start installing explosive sights? Oh my god.
I don't know.
Oh no, she's been Zelda'd.
Death, Ganon wants his style back. Come on.
Death looks so goofy in this game. He looks like he's from an Iron Maiden album cover.
John had a similar reaction when we fought him as Reinhardt. He does kind of look goofy, though. Yeah. There are certain things Nintendo 64 graphics just were not equipped to portray seriously.
I think skull imagery is weird because, like, seeing a human skull should be terrifying, but pop culture's kind of just made it sort of goofy, because it's just like, oh, they're skeletons, you know, as opposed to seeing an animated skeleton should be terrifying, you know?
And I can't really I can't really see skulls as anything but edgy, honestly, especially after the mid-2000s YouTube era of I want to make an edgy sound in philosophy YouTube thing about my atheism, so I'm going to put a skull on my shelf era of expression. Yeah. But you know, and it's a skull that's like a fish tank. It's like a fish tank ornament. I have one, actually. It's up on my bookshelf behind the Persona 5 thing that I've got up there. It's just shoved back there. I bought it when I was a teenager for laughs because it was $5 at a Walmart. It's nothing impressive, but I could put that on my shelf in full view of my camera and use it as a decoration if I wanted to make myself look edgy, you know?
Yeah, you gotta let everybody know that you're cool and you're not like those other girls. You know, I have a skull, yeah, on my shelf. I guess everybody has a skull technically.
Anyway, this is the back half of the Clock Tower stage. I think you missed it when we did it before.
No, I don't remember it. So you said that because we have not done Carrie as of this part of the playthrough. Are Carrie's versions and Reinhardt's versions of the levels different in design or like structure, or are they?
The levels that they share are essentially the same. Okay. They have a few boss fights that are unique to them, but the meat of their character specific content is that toward the middle, they both have unique levels that only they get to play. So of course along comes Cornell in Legacy of Darkness, and he just goes through most of the levels on that used to be unique to their playthroughs on his own for some reason.
Oh, I get it. So it's like he's playing very few of the levels that both Carrie and Reinhardt share.
He's playing all of the levels that they share, except for the underground tunnel and the underground waterway for some reason. I guess they wanted to leave Reinhardt and Carrie one level apiece that only they could enjoy. But then Henry comes along and has to find a child in both of them. So, you know, it's very awkward design in that sense, and it's part of the reason why I say, hey, now that we know that the Konami Code can just let us skip that nonsense, let's skip that nonsense, you know?
That's very fortuitous that you found out that existed mid-recording section.
I didn't find out that it existed mid-recording. I found out that it existed and decided, hey, now I can record Legacy of Darkness because I don't have to start as Cornell.
I thought that you... Oh, then I misremembered. I thought that you... Oh my god, dude, shimmy a little faster, please. Thank you.
The idea of doing Legacy of Darkness as a commentary had been percolating in my brain for the better part of a year and a half before I found that code. What I found out in the middle of the commentary was that the code had only been found this year.
Oh, okay, that's what I'm misremembering. Okay.
Yeah. But like I didn't want to start as Cornell because I don't like Cornell's campaign all that much.
I wonder if that had much to do with this game also not being received as well as Castlevania 64. Like, people started playing the game again and then noticed the improvements, but they were forced to play it because Cornell's the only unlockable character at the start, right? Like,
yeah, he's the only character you have at the start, yeah.
And so realizing that, like, if they got tired of his campaign, or if a lot of it was so similar to the campaign from the original game, they might just be like, oh, nah, why bother?
Well,
you know?
The thing is, if you've only played the original game, you're still getting a lot of new levels as Cornell, because a fair chunk of the levels have been completely overhauled and redesigned. So, like, the Forest of Silence is completely different. The Foggy Lake is a completely new level at the very start of the game. The Towers of Science, Execution, Sorcery, and Sub-Bosses have all been completely redesigned and are not the same levels as the ones in the vanilla game. So, if you just play Cornell's story after playing Vanilla 64, what you're getting is not the 4 levels that Kerry and Reinhardt played, but 4 completely new levels that just happen to share their aesthetic and name. What?
Huh?
What? No! I meant to slide down onto the platform. God damn it.
It's impressive that you managed to land on this bit of level geometry that, like, this specific tiny piece.
These ledges here are actually here to catch you if you fall into the holes on the slide. It's just like, you know, they don't want you to die. They don't want you to take major fall damage. I still managed to do that by accident as Reinhardt, but they don't want you to, and they did put, like, level design here to catch you. But I was supposed to, like, slide down it. And here I was like, wait, can I make this jump? No. But it's okay, because down here, as a consolation prize for anyone who falls down, there's a weapon upgrade in the candle. So that's nice. You actually do kind of want the weapon upgrades for Dracula.
So, like, it's not as if, like, oh, it's the same levels, but with slightly different sections. It's more that some of the levels are the same, but some get completely different levels instead.
And this level, for example, the clock tower, in the original game, Castlevania 64 Vanilla, the level itself, like, the first few sections of the level are still the same, but so much has been added, changed, fine-tuned, and then there's this whole second half of the level that was added to it. This entire section was not in the original level, but the clock tower itself was. It just sort of abruptly ends after 2 big rooms. It feels a lot more like a climactic lead-in to the boss fight against Dracula, though, when it's a proper full-length level with all of this stuff going on, you know?
This is a camera. This is so unusual in the sense that this is actually much more common of a thing nowadays than it was back then. Like there, you would very occasionally get some slight differences between editions of games. Like, the first one that comes to my mind is Ocarina of Time has some slight music changes depending on which version you're using.
I think it was like, what was it, the Water Temple music?
No, the Fire Temple.
Fire Temple, yeah, the vocals were changed. They were repurposed from another track, something to do with the vocals being like samples of an actual Buddhist prayer or something.
Oh, okay. I didn't actually know that part. I thought that they were just like somewhat stereotype sounding, so it's like, but okay, if they're being reused from an actual Buddhist prayer, then that does kind of legitimately cross the line into sacrilegious. So I get that makes a lot more sense to me now. But the point I was getting at is it's not uncommon now for games to get major revamps as updates in DLC. later on. Like that's pretty
Final
common.
Fantasy 15. Anyone?
Yeah, like and you know, and a lot of the times for free too, where it's just like there's a whole bunch of new content. There's a lot of you know, like quality of life improvements. Like that's fairly common now. But back in the day, considering the only way to really do that was to release a new game and hope people buy the same game again, you know, that's pretty risky. So it's honestly, it shows what a letter of love this game is, that they had that much faith in it to be like, okay, no, we can fix this.
I should say, on consoles, they would have had to release new versions of the game, yes. On PC, patches and updates have existed since the early days of the early form internet. You know, when you would have to download the shit you needed to add to your game off of BBS. But, you know,
even then they'd often just do an expansion pack anyway, because that's how you make money off of it.
Expansion DLC was actually kind of uncommon around that time, honestly. Like, Baldur's Gate was one of the few. Although, you know, never play the original Baldur's Gate without the expansion installed. The original version of the final boss was bullshit. It was literally immune to all magic. Like, what the fuck? What am I supposed to do if my main character is a mage?
So did this guy just tell us that we caused a world war and millions of people have died?
No, he's saying he's leaving because he's heard news of an impending world war.
Oh.
It's funny, though. He has the same lines here with Cornell as he does 8 years in the future with Reinhardt and Carey. So I guess he heard the same news of the same world war twice in a fucking row. Although it is interesting that they bring up World War One. I think it's World War One, because that would also be that would also I think it was going on during the events of Castlevania Bloodlines, wasn't it?
I don't know the timeline that well. Also, I love the not deadly fire that you jumped into.
You know, I originally thought that I would have to shimmy around the fire, but no, the fire just doesn't have a hurt box. Also, obvious invisible bridge is obvious. This is the only candle in the game that I've ever seen spawn a healing kit rather than, like, chicken or something. But it only seems to do it when you don't have a healing kit in your inventory yet. So
this is supposed to be this game's version of the thing hidden under the stairs.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
You get a free weapon upgrade and a free healing item, though. It's not, like, anything mind-blowing. Although, keep in mind, you can't walk back out here once you've entered the boss room. And the only save point in this chapter is in the boss room. So you only get that free weapon upgrade on your first attempt.
Oh, otherwise you're going back to... ooh.
Yeah, you're going back to base level if you die, yeah. Which is very likely because, well, I like the first phase Dracula that you fight here as Cornell. It's just a more intense version of phase 1 Dracula from Reinhardt's campaign. But phase 2 Dracula, I hate it so much. But first we have a cutscene.
Dracula got Zelda too? Wow.
No, it's the Crystal of Fire. We need to shatter it and get all our jobs. I mean, what? Save the crystal. We need to save the crystal. Of course. Hey. Ada, how you doing in there? No?
Have you found the 6 sages yet? I just walked up some stairs.
All right. Oh, we're doing charades. Okay, sounds like Grampire? This isn't making sense.
Anyway. Yes. Here's Count Dracula, the real one this time. Not Gil de Rais disguised as Dracula.
So, in Reinhardt's version, Dracula was already dead and they were resurrecting him, right?
It's more like he reincarnated in the form of a blue-haired boy named Malice. So, and this whole story is him setting that whole chain of events up with the help of Gil de Rais and an actrice. But, you know, it's Notice how much more, like, dignified Dracula sounds when he's not the pompous nobleman pretending to be him, but the actual Dracula. He has so much more, like, going on in his dialogue here. It's actually kind of magical.
When did Dracula get force lightning? The fuck? Oh, man.
Oh, Jesus. I can't believe I
will
avoided
say
that.
it's interesting seeing a lot of old Castlevania attacks be translated into 3D. Like he still poofs around all over the place. That's definitely interesting, and like I guess the shockwave's kind of like a fireball.
Yeah, what you didn't see last campaign was that Dracula also has the ability to grab you and bite you, and if you can't break out, you get inflicted with vampirism, which is a good thing to bring up that I never thought to mention about Cornell. The werewolf form has one other feature other than just buffing your attack, although it hasn't come up this playthrough. It cures any status ailments you happen to have. So if you do get inflicted with vampirism, which is actually kind of hard to do because there aren't many vampires in his campaign, you can just pop the werewolf form and immediately cure yourself of vampirism. So that's a thing.
Although vampire werewolf does sound kind of cool, to be honest.
Well, I mean, they're traditionally just kind of like both curses, but like always in opposition with each other. I'm not sure why.
I mean, nothing says that you can't be a werewolf that's also a vampire. Like, I feel like they're separate. I guess people are generally less familiar with the rules for werewolves than they are with vampires. The vampire rules tend to be pretty standardized, where the werewolf ones get to have a little bit more loosey-goosey.
Well, there's also a lot less of them with werewolves. It's kind of the the silver bullet, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, but like getting bit by one, the full moon thing, like those are the big ones. But other than that, like what kind of thing you transform into? How long are you transformed? Are you like in your right mind when you get transformed? You know, that's all very.
How about how many other were things there are? If you go back in like the Elder Scrolls, later Elder Scrolls games had werewolves. Did you know that Elder Scrolls 2 had a were-boar, and you could become one?
That sounds badass, actually. Now that I think about it,
it's just like it's weird, man. Unfortunately, the werewolf, the lycanthropy, disease curse thing, and the vampirism, like they had ideas for it, but it's really undercooked in those games.
So what is he saying about our sister?
Oh, this is the plot twist for Cornell's story. His blood relative is not really his blood relative. She is, in fact, a human from a village that the man-beasts destroyed and killed everyone in. And Cornell, in a fit of guilt, sort of adopted Ada as his sister to, raise her as one of them to sort of atone. And Dracula divine/guessed the truth because he could tell that Ada was not a man-beast. So now that he has dropped this plot bomb on us, he is going to transform into the most annoying boss I've ever fought in any video game ever. It's not exactly hard. It's just really, really goddamn annoying. And God help you if you don't have a surplus of healing items when you get to this point, because you're gonna fucking need them. Anyway, no centipede dragon for Cornell. He gets stereotypical devil Dracula, except there's a giant weak point in the form of this face in his chest. The thing is, the face only reveals itself, or only seems to reveal itself, while Dracula is attacking. And avoiding this guy's attacks is basically impossible.
Holy slowdown.
Oh yeah, there's slowdown. There's also a really fucking annoying camera angle.
The fixed camera angle makes it look like a JRPG boss, actually.
Yeah. It's like Dracula thinks this is a Final Fantasy game. And Cornell's like, wait, what am I doing? What I'm supposed to stand in line? I'm supposed to wait my turn?
How are you supposed to dodge this shit?
Gentleman's combat.
I have no idea. I just got DMC juggled. Before DMC. Come to think of it, this is reminding me of the final boss of Devil May Cry 1. But that game handled it way better.
So, like, how does Cornell's campaign, like, even tie into the other ones?
It's 8 years before that happens, but basically what happens is at the end of this battle, if you manage to actually hit the... This is why I wanted to use my werewolf form. If you actually manage to hit the face in full werewolf mode, you do so much goddamn damage. I wiped out most of Dracula's health bar with 2 lucky shots. I've never died to this boss. I've only fought it twice, but in both cases, I managed to bullshit my way through with the Breath of the Wild approach of just going into the menu and healing myself whenever I take damage.
I mean, this is the appeal of being the guy who hoards all of his mega elixirs, right? Like, the final boss doesn't stand a chance.
But what if I need them for the super boss?
No, game doesn't save after the final boss, Ryan. It's okay, you can use them.
Oh, damn it. Oof.
So you can hurt him while the thing's not out. You just have to... It just does less damage.
Yeah, it does, like, very, very little damage. Even in werewolf form, if you hit him while his face is covered. But it does do damage. It's just, he keeps going out of bounds. Stop that. You're not a speedrunner.
He also has the radar sonar tracking on his fireballs that will hit you no matter what you do, it seems like.
The fireballs aren't even the most annoying thing. The most annoying thing is the ice spikes. Because they're so goddamn long, you can jump over them and still land on them and get hit that way. And it's really hard to judge that because of the fucking angle that they give you. God damn it, I almost hit his face and finished the boss. Then he had to throw me up into the air and DMC juggle me again. Is this what I've been doing to marionettes?
Yes.
Those poor marionettes. I'm just like... I'm feeling sudden DMC player remorse. Being on the receiving end of a juggle is miserable. I should already know that because I play a lot of Tekken.
Yeah,
but,
I was gonna say, have you ever played against
anyone who knows what they're doing in Tekken? Yeah, I have. It's miserable.
At least from what I remember, you can't really get 0 to death a ton in Tekken, like in some other
there aren't really
fighting
many
games.
There aren't really many combos that extend beyond 40% health, I don't think.
Depends on wall splats or not.
Because I know that's some fighting games where it's like, I think it's Marvel vs. Capcom. Some of the games is just like the entire game is shimmying, and then the first person gets hit loses.
Kind of. I think all the Marvel versus games have at least one team combo that can do an infinite.
Yeah. They're so proud of it, they named one of their games that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's one in Infinite, but I know at least in 1, 2, and 3, there is at least one team combo that can infinite.
Yeah, well, those games weren't exactly balanced. Early fighting games in general were not exactly balanced.
Are you saying that Marvel vs. Capcom 2 with its 7,500 different playable characters isn't a balanced video game, Lewis?
Yes.
How dare you?
But don't you know it's a fighting game classic that's not balanced at all, and everyone just chooses the same, like, 2 or 3 teams that are just better than everyone else.
I mean, a game doesn't have to be balanced to be good. I'll just stare at Smash Brothers Melee and make my point there. But
it was also an early arcade fighting game, which was more about stealing your quarters than about competition. So,
Yeah.
Anyway, this is how Dracula reincarnates into a little boy. Cornell's wolf form leaves his body to trade itself, I guess, for Ada. And then Dracula's like, ha ha ha! I got what I wanted! Because this is what he wanted, apparently. He wanted the man-wolf power so that he could use it as fuel for a ritual. Why, specifically, he needed a man-wolf for this job? I do not know. Because it never actually comes up in any worthwhile sense in the main story. Maybe they had ideas for this in the original vision for Castlevania 64 that we're never going to see, but as it is, that's the only relevant reason this is a prequel to the Reinhardt and Carrie story, because Dracula gets the wolf power through bullshit and uses that wolf power to become a child. Why a child?
Sure.
Because he needs a disguise, I guess.
Yeah, but he's not disguised as a wolf or a werewolf. He's disguised as he should have stolen the 4-year-old power.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway, this is Henry. We saved him while you weren't here with us. But in any case, this kid becomes the gun knight who is playable in the 4th mode. I'm not actually doing a playthrough of his mode, though, because it's just go through all the levels and find all the children, and there's very little story, and it's all the same levels, and it's kind of like 4th Survivor in Resident Evil, come to think of it. It's like, you hardly ever see 4th Survivor included in playthroughs, do you? Because it's like a little bonus mode. You could probably finish Henry's mode in like half an hour. I've seen videos of him of people going through and collecting all the children in under half an hour. It's not hard. Oh man, the edge, the angst. Well, there's a bit of like bright light at the end of this dark tunnel, because Ada is just like, even if we're not blood relatives, we can just start over together and live a life, and it's nice. It's very nice of her to like.
Did she know about what happened before all of this?
It's implied that she figured it out on her own, although Dracula did sort of mouth off about it right in front of her, so I don't know why our hero here thinks he needs to inform her of it, because he was about to before Henry showed up. Ah, sunrise. I like this ending. I do kind of like this ending. Although, I will say that in N64 graphics, this sort of camera direction where you just sort of like...
I also just like the swivel of him too, where he's not even animated. It's just kind of like, oops.
It's like this sort of camera direction where you sort of like hover just below the eye line so that you can't see their eyes to hide their emotions. It's just kind of like... Also, why did we do a triple take of her turning her head?
Also, the way that they had the camera, it made it look like Cornell was staring at her boobs, too, which is also weird.
We're getting into Sword Art Online territory. They're not blood relatives, so it's fine.
So it is okay.
Or they're cousins, so therefore it's technically legally okay.
They aren't even cousins. She's just some girl who he saved from a village that his tribe destroyed.
Suddenly, all at once, you hear the sound of a million fanfiction writers typing away.
Anyway, there is a post-credits scene for Cornell's story. None of the other campaigns have one, but Cornell's does. Anyway, yeah, every time you save your game clear file, you get a list of all the stuff you've unlocked. But since I use the Konami code, I have everything unlocked on every save file. So, yeah, that's a thing.
Do you fight death as Cornell?
No, you only fight death as Reinhardt. Reinhardt fights death, Cornell gets Ortega, and Carrie gets Actrice. Cornell's story is the only one that actually shows Gilda Ray. So... It's also probably the first time a lot of people ever saw Actrice, because she doesn't appear at all in Reinhardt's story. Why is Death performing the ritual? That's weird. Shouldn't it be humans? Isn't it only human hands that can reach into hell? Don't you think that's weirdly fucked up?
Wait, so Dracula needed the man-wolf power. His whole plan was he needed the man-wolf power to get his body back, even though the only reason he needed his body back is because he taunted Cornell into killing him so that he could get the body.
He wanted a new body that he could disguise himself in, But,
I mean, you shave the goatee and like, put on a little makeup to not look so pale. You could probably go out and people wouldn't notice you. Dress a little bit down a little bit.
Well, if we're going by Netflix logic, all vampires have pointy ears. So...
Wear a hat.
Dude, Dracula just walks into an inn at the end of that series, and he's just like... He's got his pointy ears and his goatee and everything, and nobody notices.
Also, in the Netflix series, Dracula was like 8 feet tall.
That too, yeah. He's extreme. Well, he's 8 feet tall here. Did you see how tall he was compared to Cornell? Yeah. It's like, holy shit. And oh yeah, a little text blurb saying, "Hey, there's a prophecy about what's going to happen." They specifically specify a blue-haired child, though. I feel like you would know a blue-haired child was supernatural without that warning, because blue hair.
I would have assumed he's the protagonist, though, to be fair.
This isn't a Fire Emblem game.
I am.
Or a Phantasy Star game. Or a Star Ocean game. Or a Gundam series. Or any of that stuff. There's a lot of them. God damn.